if you want to conduct some sort of operation, and that requires, for example, Rafale jets. Now, if the Rafale jets have not been imported in that particular quantity that is needed by Indian Army, Indian Air Force, Indian Navy, etc., so that will hamper the readiness of our military operations. Many years ago, India had planned with Russia to develop 5th generation fighter jet. Recently, Defense Minister said we are not going ahead with that plan. Now we will make our own 5th generation fighter jet. So if we take total defense budget, which is around rupees 6 lakh crore, uska not even 1% is spent on R&D. Majority, more than 50% of defense budget is being spent on pension, salaries, all of these things. It increased. China mein 20% of defense budget goes on defense R&D. India mein, forget defense. Total R&D across all the sectors is not even 1%. It's 0.65% approximately. Okay, good morning everyone. My name is Sunil Dagar. Today we'll be taking a weekly MCAR discussion on Atmanirbhar Bharat in defense sector. Okay, I'll be discussing the security topics with all of you. So, यहाँ पे we are focusing on how the government of India in the last decade or so is giving a lot of attention to the idea of Atmanirbharta. That means self-dependence or defense indigenization. Clear? So we'll understand this topic of how we can be dependent on ourselves for defense equipment, defense production, defense export. Now in this topic, when we are talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat in defense sector, so we'll divide this topic into two sections. The first is defense production, and the second is defense export. Of course, both of them are related to each other. That means defense export will be dependent on how much or what is the volume of defense equipment that we are producing in our own country. Clear? So there's a strong linkage between the two. Now in terms of production, the government of India has set certain targets. Production mein, the target that government of India has set by 2029 is rupees 3 lakh crore. So government of India is saying that by the end of 2028-29, that means by 2029, we should have a defense production of rupees 3 lakh crore. When it comes to defense export, they say our target is rupees 50,000 crore. Again, by the same year, by 2029. Now, what we must know is that what is the level of production that we have right now. Right now, we have reached, that means financial year 2024-25 May, we have reached defense production of approximately 1.5 lakh crore. So we have to double the target by 2029, right? When it comes to defense exports, again, we have reached approximately half of it, 24 to 25,000 crore. So basically, we have to double both defense production and defense export by 2029. These are the targets, 3 lakh crore and 50,000 crore, and these are the present value of defense production and defense export. Now, the reason that the government is focusing so much on indigenization of defense is because of the benefits that is accrued due to defense indigenization, right? And before we come to the benefit briefly, let me tell you, now this is the data given by PIB. Look here. If you look at defense production, so defense production mein, and this is financial year 2014-15. This is financial year 2023-24, right? So यहाँ पे if you look at, just look approximately how well we have done in the last approximately 9-10 years. So यहाँ पे 2014-15 में the defense production was around 46,000 crore. 23-24 में we reached 1.27 lakh crore. Of course, 24-25 में I already told you we have reached approximately 1.5 lakh crore. Okay, so there's a good jump in the defense production from 2014. Clear? We are talking about jump of at least 3 times. Okay, so that's a very good number. Secondly, if you look at defense export, look at defense export. 2014-15 mein our defense export was less than 2,000 crore. Now that's a very small number. 2023-24 mein we reached 21,000 crore. Of course, I told you 2024-25 mein we have crossed 24,000 and we are between 24 to 25,000 crore. That is in rupees. Okay, so if you look at the growth of both defense production and defense export, we have done fantastically well. Okay, and kudos to the government, to the agencies, bureaucracy for this growth. But why we are focusing so much on the defense production and defense export? That means what are the benefits of defense indigenization? Now the benefits are quite simple. If you ask me, recently during Operation Sindoor, you must have heard of the air defense system. The air defense system employs the S-400 missiles that we import from Russia. Clear? Russia को हमने order दिया था of 5 S-400. ठीक है? These are S-400 are air defense system. Missiles are a component of that, right? So basically, if the enemy's missile is coming like this, S-400 system will release their missile and destroy the enemy's missile in the sky itself. For long-range missiles होती हैं इसमें. So S-400 में 5 S-400 systems we had ordered. Because Russia is included or engaged in a war with Ukraine, only 3 of them have been imported by India. 2 are still remaining and they will be received by 2026-27. The target year initially when the agreement was signed was 2023-24. So there is a delay of 3 years. Why? Because Russia is engaged in a war with Ukraine. Because of this delay, who suffers? India, the importers, because we have a dependency on them. Understand? So the benefits of producing defense equipments ourselves is, number 1, we have strategic autonomy. So all the strategic decisions that we want to take, we are dependent on ourselves. We are not dependent on, Arey, Israel said, did we get that or not? Right? Or Russia said, did we get that or not? Nahin. We are producing things ourselves and we are dependent on us, but nobody else. Right? The second benefit is operational readiness. Operational readiness, again, if you want to conduct some sort of operation and that requires, for example, Rafale jets. Now, if the Rafale jets have not been imported in that particular quantity that is needed by Indian Army, Indian Air Force, Indian Navy, etc., so that will hamper the readiness of our military operations. Clear? So the second benefit of defense indigenization is your operational readiness. The third benefit, of course, when you import these defense equipments, they are very costly. We are talking about hundreds and thousands of crores, and you have to pay in Forex, foreign exchange, your dollar, for example. Now, Forex is very crucial for a country. In case of a crisis, a country needs to have a lot of Forex. If we have a lot of dollar, we can import oil, for example, import other critical things that is required, right? But because we are importing so much of defense equipment, we have to pay in those foreign exchange, right? In those dollars. So, economic benefit is there of defense indigenization. Clear? What else is the benefit? Another benefit is technology related. Now, all of these, by the way, are syllabus, the subjects given in the syllabus. This is economy, this is science and technology, this is security terms, right? So, use the syllabus to get to the answer in mains. Mains is relatively easy if you have some approaches to crack down the question. Anyway, technological benefits kya hai? Technology mein, a country exporting an equipment, they can sometime, or there's a fear of backdoor vulnerability. Backdoor vulnerability is a type of a gap, a type of vulnerability in, for example, the software that is used in that defense equipment, right? In the operating system, some sort of loophole, some sort of gap could be left by the exporting country. Why? For example, if we are taking, India is importing, say, a fighter. India is importing a fighter jet from a country X. Now this X country, what they'll do, fighter jet also operates on certain networks, there's some softwares involved. So this X country will leave a backdoor vulnerability in one of the softwares after 15 years. If we are in a war with this country X, or if the country X does not want us to do something with their fighter jets, which we have paid for, so they will use this vulnerability and they will make this fighter jet ineffective. Understand? Now that is a major challenge or major problem with import dependency in defense equipment. So another benefit of defense indigenization is that we are not dependent on others, so there is no backdoor vulnerability. Okay. Another benefit is your IR related, international relations related, which is global diplomacy. Now, global diplomacy, India is now projecting itself as a sort of a growing power. We are already a regional power. In South Asia, we are the largest country, right? In Asia also, we are one of the dominant countries. But now we are branding ourselves, we are projecting ourselves as sort of a power which is beyond a regional power. Okay? We are not yet a global power, but we want to show to the world that we are progressing in that direction. So, global diplomacy may, especially with the Global South. Global South is the countries which are developing countries. Now, for those countries, India has been a sort of a leader since the time of non-aligned movement, right? So what will happen is, if India is producing a lot of defense equipments, then we'll start selling it to countries like Nigeria, Kenya, Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia. Understand? Now, what happens is, in the eyes of these countries, this Global South, India will become a bigger power. And we'll have some sort of advantages because now these countries have started using our defense products. For example, BrahMos missile. India is already exporting BrahMos missile to Philippines. Right? And Vietnam, Malaysia, all of these countries are highly interested in this BrahMos missile. BrahMos missile was made jointly by India and Russia, right? The name BrahMos comes from Brahmaputra and Moskva. India mein you have Brahmaputra river and Russia mein you have Moskva river, right? So combined word for Brahmaputra and Moskva becomes BrahMos. Clear? It's a supersonic missile. Supersonic missile क्या होती है? Supersonic missile has speeds between Mach 1 to Mach 5. Mach 1 होता है speed of sound, 343 meters per second, right? So इनकी speed is more than the speed of sound. So if the other countries like Philippines have BrahMos missile, now in their eyes, in the eyes of Global South, now that is a huge global diplomacy advantage that we have. Now these countries will have to listen to India when it comes to diplomatic engagements because they're dependent on India for the defense equipments. Clear? Of course, India, unlike China, does not want to grow by using some sort of force, right? We believe in the concept of Vasudev Kutumbakam or the use of soft power. right? So in a soft power engagement as well, in enhancement of soft power as well, India will have a great benefit due to indigenization of defense equipments. Understand? So these are some of the benefits that will be accrued to India as we grow in defense indigenization. Right? Now the second thing that we need to understand is how. How were we able to increase the value of defense production and defense exports in the last 10 years? I showed you the bar diagram, right? That means government must have taken certain steps, right? The vision of government is Atmanirbhar Bharat, right? In multiple sectors, including defense. So, यहाँ पे government has taken certain steps in the last 10 years. Now, what are those steps? Let's try and understand that. And it's quite easy, to be very honest with you. When the current government of 2014, when PM Modi came into power, one of the key areas he wanted to focus, or his government wanted to focus, was on defense indigenization. So, 2015 में, we came out with a naval indigenization plan. Naval indigenization plan. That means the equipments, defense equipments used by Navy, will try to develop them within India, reducing our import dependency. Clear? And this plan is from 2015 till 2013. So this was one of the beginning, but the main step that we took was in 2018. When somebody asks you the defense related, what steps has government? 2018 is the crucial year. 2018 में government came out with IDEX. IDEX. What is IDEX? Innovations in Defense Excellence. Innovations in Defense Excellence. Now this program was started by Government of India to give some sort of grant. Rupees 1.4 crore grant is given to your MSMEs, startups, your private individual, anybody who's interested in manufacturing defense products will get some sort of monetary help from the government. That is the IDEX. This is to generate or start a type of a defense production ecosystem in India. Okay, so 2018 में IDEX came. Because the MSME startups, your private organizations, all of them will start making defense equipments. They need to protect their intellectual property as well. So they will make, for example, they made a new type of drone, right, using a new technology. Or some company made a fighter jet based on stealth technology. Stealth matlab something which cannot be detected quite easily, right? अब ये technology needs to be protected through intellectual property. उसके लिए Government of India came out with Mission Raksha Gyan Shakti. Mission Raksha Gyan Shakti. Again, this came in 2018. What is the purpose? To train these private companies, MSME, startup, even defense PSUs, anyone who's producing defense equipments on intellectual property. How to apply for intellectual property rights, right? How to make sure others don't copy our technology. All of this will be covered under Mission Raksha Gyan Shakti. Clear? In 2018, another step that was taken was the 2 defense industrial corridors. Government of India said, let's do one thing. This was again 2018-19. So Government of India announced 2 defense industrial corridors, one in UP and the other one in Tamil Nadu. These are the 2 defense industrial corridors. Look at Tamil Nadu. So Chennai, Hosur, Salem, Coimbatore, Tiruchirappalli, and UP में Aligarh, Agra, Lucknow, Kanpur, Chitrakoot, Jhansi right? So these are the places which will have some sort of speciality when it comes to defense equipments. And this has already started, by the way. Clear? Of course, it will generate a lot of jobs as well. That is another benefit. So these are 2 DICs started by the government of India in 2018-19. Clear? Then 2020 mein, another important decision taken by India was defense acquisition procedure. It's called DAP 2020. Defense acquisition procedure may basically whatever defense equipments that will be acquired by your Indian Army, Indian Air Force, maybe your CRPF, BSF, anything. Now there is a procedure that needs to be followed. Clear? Under this, the government of India came out with the concept of positive indigenization list. Positive indigenization list. What is positive indigenization list? Basically, there will be some products which can be bought by your Indian Army, Indian Air Force, CRPF, anyone from companies within India. Clear? So there be some products, defense products, which are reserved to be bought only from Indian companies. And this list of the companies is present on the Shrijan portal. Another important step government took. So go, for example, right now, you can open Shrijan portal and you can look at the reserved items, the name of the companies, the address of the companies, everything is given there. Right? So the idea is buy from Indian companies, buy Indian. Okay? So that is another step, important step that was taken by government of India. Then 2024 mein, a scheme Aditi was started by Indian government. ठीक है? Aditi क्या है? Acing development of innovative technologies through IDEX. Remember IDEX, Innovation for Defense Excellence 2018 program. I told you that is something that you have to remember. So IDEX mein there was some grant, 1.5 crore, etc. So through that now, use this money. We'll tell the private companies, defense PSUs, etc. Anyone getting some grant that now focus on innovative technologies like artificial intelligence, big data, analytics, machine learning tools, all of these, right? So these are some of the steps. There's some other steps. FDI norms in defense have been relaxed. Now there is 74% FDI in defense through automatic route. And 100% FDI in defense through government route. Right? इसके अलावा licensing norms have been relaxed. Some products in defense needed some sort of licensing to be acquired from the government. Now these licensing norms have been relaxed. For a lot of equipment, small parts, uske liye government has removed licensing conditions altogether as well. Export authorization has become digital. So digitalization or digitization of export authorization. When you want to export something, you need so many permissions, right? So government has put everything on digital format. So these are the steps which deserve the credit for the increase in defense production and defense export by India in the last 10 years. Clear? And you have to remember the key year is 2018. This program is something that you'll have to think. Right? And you'll have to remember. So these are some of the steps that we have taken, and that has led to some sort of increase. When we come to the big ticket items, big defense equipments, the government of India has in recent months, in last year, released the idea of the 5th generation aircraft or fighter jet. Right? Now 5th generation, only 3 countries have. USA, China, and Russia. India does not have a 5th generation aircraft. We have 4th generation, 4.5 generation. Rafale है जैसे import किया है. But many years ago, India had planned with Russia to develop 5th generation fighter jet. Recently, Defense Minister said we are not going ahead with that plan. Now we will make our own 5th generation fighter jet, right? Advanced technologies hongi, all of that. Similarly, aircraft carrier mein, we have 2 aircraft carrier right now. One acquired from Russia, which is Vikram Aditya. Ye 2004 mein we acquired from Russia, commissioned into Indian Navy in 2018. And the indigenization or our own aircraft carrier is called Vikrant. This was made by India. In 2013 it was launched, entered into service in 2022. Trials and all lagta hai na? So finally it was entered. Now Government of India has declared, the Defense Minister has declared, we will make India's 3rd aircraft carrier and the 2nd aircraft carrier made within India. Okay? So these are the signs, these are the news items which indicate that Government of India is focusing immensely on Atmanirbhar Bharat in defense. Clear? When we talk about exporting things, now the top 3 defense export destination for India has been, and we are talking about the 2023-24 financial year. Number 1, USA. Number 2, France. And number 3, Armenia. This was 2023-24. And that is why Trump does not like that. Trump is saying, why we are buying from India? Right? So defense exports, mein, this is the top 3 countries. But if we look at the broad data, we are talking about decade level data. So firstly, remember 2019 se 23 mein, India was world's largest arms importer. Clear? Around 10% of total global arms were imported by India. But if we talk about 21st century, from 2000 to 2022, India imports its item number 1 from Russia, number 2 from France, then Israel, then US, and then Kingdom. The US, of course, wants that India should import more from them, right? And if we talk about the export of India from 2000 to 2023, we are talking about a longer time frame, not a single financial year. Then it's Myanmar, which is number 1. Second, Sri Lanka. Third, Mauritius. So it is the smaller countries, the developing countries, where we need to focus a lot more on, because they are importing a lot of our defense equipments. Understand? So these are some of the data we need to remember. In terms of the items that we are selling, now look at this. This is quite interesting. Look at the big countries, USA and France. These are the big countries in the list. France imports from India software and electronic equipment when it comes to defense. USA imports parts or aircraft and helicopter. So that means the big countries are not importing big ticket defense items from India. Fighter jet, aircraft carrier, missiles, nahin kar rahe hain. Why? Because they have better technology. Clear? So India needs to focus on, look at this, Philippines, they have imported BrahMos. Mauritius, they have imported our helicopter. Dhruv, Armenia, Akash missile, Pinaka, multi-launch rocket system, all of these systems. So India, if we want to have a big global brand, we want to project ourselves as sort of a upcoming global power, then we need to export more of these items. Isse kya hota hai? Oh look, India's BrahMos missile is being used by, for example, 60+ countries. Right? Is tarike se when news comes, then the other countries will start looking at India in terms of a global power. Clear? India is on the way to do these things. Now, in the defense indigenization, the main problem that we are facing, or the challenges that we are facing, let's try and discuss that. Right, of course, we are combining defense production as well as defense export. What are the challenges? The first challenge, of course, is money. Right? Main problem, paise ki to hai. So funding is the main problem. Now funding mein, for example, it is normally said that a country should try to give 3% of GDP to defense. Right? Defense budget should be around 3% of GDP. India mein, the defense budget is around 1.9% of GDP. Clear? Now that is lesser than the recommended 3%. Okay. Secondly, when it comes to research and development, because we are saying we need to, let's make a modern missile, right? New generation missile. Arey yaar, usme you will need research and development. Clear? Research and development ke liye you need better skills, right? Human resources, you need better technologies, all of these things. So R&D mein, the defense R&D as a percentage of defense budget is not even 1%. Clear? So if we take total defense budget, which is around rupees 6 lakh crore, uska not even 1% is spent on R&D. Majority, more than 50% of defense budget is being spent on pension, salaries, all of these things. Clear? हमें R&D में बढ़ाना है. If you talk about China and USA, China में this ratio is 20%, USA में this ratio is 12%. So look how much they are spending on the research and development when it comes to percentage of defense budget. We need to match these numbers. Less than 1% will not suffice. Okay. और क्या problem है, challenge है? The next challenge is we have import dependency. I already told you the example of S-400 from Russia, right? 2 of the S-400 were delayed by 3 years because of Russia-Ukraine war. Clear? That means international relation, international events, global events determine if India will get the defense item, if we are dependent on import. Clear? इसको कहते हैं supply chain vulnerabilities. Defense की जो supply chain है, उसमें there can be some sort of vulnerabilities. ठीक है? So we can give example of S-400 missile system that we are importing from Russia. Still we have not received the 5 S-400 that were promised, right? They have been delayed. Then another challenge is technology. Now technology में जो foreign original equipment manufacturers हैं, we call it OEMs. So there is domestic OEMs and there is foreign OEMs. Foreign OEMs जो हैं, they have intellectual property rights on their technology. They don't want to share that technology. Even in technology of transfer agreement, they share the older version, the previous generation of technologies. Clear? So यहाँ पे एक बहुत बड़ा challenge है. If you want to make, for example, if you want to make a fighter jet, अब fighter jet में sensors चाहिए. Sensors की technology पे intellectual property right है, for example, France का. Is that clear? So they will not share that. We cannot make our fighter jet. That is one problem that we are facing. Then another challenge. Now, one of the major news items when it comes to defense exports from India is the credibility questions that have been asked, right? Recently, for example, Malaysia wanted a light combat aircraft. Malaysia said, they gave a tender that we want a light combat aircraft. Light combat aircraft unko chahiye. India has a light combat aircraft, which is Tejas, but we lost our Tejas, LCA Tejas lost to South Korea. So eventually South Korea got this contract. Clear? Now, why this happens? There are many accusations that are, for example, after sales service from Indian companies. After sales service is a problem. They say there's some delays in the after sales service. Clear? For example, Ecuador. Ecuador had ordered 7 Dhruv helicopters from India. ठीक है? 2009 में we signed an agreement, around $45 million का agreement था. Now they acquired 5. ठीक है? All 5 of them have crashed. अब India ये कहता है, it's not our problem. For example, during investigation, in 2 of them, the fault was of the pilot. Clear? So that India says that it's not the problem. But then Ecuador says that if we had done the service on time, etc., then some issues could have been resolved, right? So यहाँ पे they cancelled the contract. They cancelled the contract. Now, It's not about the money primarily, it's the image of Indian defense equipments. Understand? World over, other countries start thinking, should we buy this? What if there is some delays, right? From the Indian side in sending the product? What if there's some delays in after sales service? What if some safety issues are there? Clear? Even if these things are not true, the image starts getting changed. And we need to be very careful about these things. Understand? So these are some of the challenges that we need to focus on. Right? We talk about how we have increased our defense production, but if you talk about our share in the global domestic market, it's less than 0.2%. Clear? These challenges we have to solve. Let me show you. Look at the share of countries in global defense or arms exporters. US has 40% of the market. Russia has 16%. Then you have France, China, etc. Where is India? India is not even 0.2%. Right? So we are way far behind these developed countries. Clear? What has happened with BrahMos in recent time has been a very good story. Philippines ne liya hai. Very soon Vietnam, Malaysia, they will also start giving contracts. Okay? So we need more of these success stories. Now to solve those challenges, these are the steps that we can take. Let's see, look at the steps quickly. So first, focus on R&D. Right? Increase. China mein 20% of defense budget goes on defense R&D. India mein, forget defense. Total R&D across all the sectors is not even 1%. It's 0.65% approximately. Right, of GDP. So this is very less number. And defense ka loge, maine bataya tha, less than 1%. We need to increase it to at least 10, 12, 13, 14%. Second, absorption of technology. India needs to focus on modern innovative technologies. अब उसमें problem क्या होता है? Intellectual property rights हैं. So you start doing joint ventures with foreign original equipment manufacturers. Focus on countries like Australia, UAE, Saudi, South Korea, because they, like India, want to develop their own defense industry as well. So it's a very good opportunity for India to have joint ventures with them. Understand? The third is Vijay Raghavan Committee. Now Vijay Raghavan Committee, Professor Vijay Raghavan was the principal scientific advisor to Indian Prime Minister. तो एक committee बनी थी on DRDO reforms. इन्होंने for example क्या बोला है? One of the things that we should make a defense technology council. And this should be led by PMO. Clear? So under the leadership of Prime Minister, make a defense technology council that will look at integration of defense technology in defense. Clear? Then focus on skill development, human resources. So इसमें college में for example some sort of courses can be integrated. Right? उनको बताइए drones कैसे बनते हैं. Right? उनको सिखाइए avionics. Avionics is aviation plus electronics. All of these things should be integrated for a college-going student. They will be the skilled labor later on. Okay? Innovation में hand-holding, funding, capacity building support करिए to MSMEs. Promoting export of complete defense systems platforms, because branding इसी से आएगी. Right? Small nuts, bolts, component parts से branding नहीं आएगी, सिर्फ पैसा आएगा. यहाँ से पैसा भी आएगा big ticket item से, plus the global image. So focus more on countries of Africa, Southeast Asia, Latin America. They will buy BrahMos missile. They will buy Pinaka multi-launch rocket system. They will buy Akash missile, Agni missile, etc. Clear? अगर because these countries are normally poor, तो help कर दो. हमारा export-import bank है. They can give loans to these countries. Then they can start importing. We can open foreign offices in these countries for better marketing of our products. Clear? थोड़ा PR भी करना पड़ता है. अभी जो इक्वाडोर में हुआ है, Indian government had been trying to manage this from escalating. Clear? And focus on component subsystem. Now for smaller countries, for bigger countries, we are a source of component parts, right? वो India से component parts रहते हैं. But see how we can take advantage of this. Instead of just supplying component parts, let's do something. Let's make sure India में smaller defense manufacturers, they become essential for those big companies in USA, France. Clear? इससे क्या होगा? India के small MSME defense manufacturers will become part of global defense supply chain. And जब हम contract sign करते हैं, there are always some offset obligation. Offset obligation means Indian government will say to US, we are buying 30,000 crore of fighter jets, for example. Right? What you need to do is you need to do some offsets. You need to give us something in return. Either you give some transfer of technology to India, right? Or you make promises that you will also buy something from India. Clear? So transfer of technology में क्या होगा? ये जो smaller manufacturers हैं, they will get that technology, they will get some help. So these are some ways that we can further improve the Atmanirbharta in defense sector from Indian point of view. Clear? So these challenges that we had discussed can be resolved with these steps that we can further take. Clear? That is it. This is defense production and defense export. That's it. Try to keep an eye on this issue. This is quite relevant, quite important, especially in the last 2-3 years. Right? Chaliye. Thank you.